Hi, well today we're going to have a go at showing you how I make the pendants out of corian. And what I've done, I've actually split some down the middle so that it's very thin. I'll show you how I do that in a minute. And I'll put carpet double-sided tape on the back, which is this rolls of this stuff. And I will stick that onto this piece of wood. I've marked the centre of the piece of wood. I've also marked the centre of the piece of corian so that I can bring my tailstock up and line it in the chuck, line it up in the chuck. The chuck, again, same as with doing the pen stands, only 2 jaws and then that will lock in between and it can be slid backwards and forwards to get different patterns on your piece of corian, on your pendant. Okay? So that's that part of it. The tools I use is a carbide tip tool, homemade by the way, a pointed tool for cutting out the pattern, and a screwdriver for levering off the corian once it's all finished. Oh, and also I've got some cans of black spray paint that I'm going to use to make the cutouts stand out a little bit more. I'll show you that later. Right, going to change position and move over to the bandsaw. Right, now what I've done, I've got to keep this piece as a template. I've got a slot down the middle which is smack bang in the centre of the 12mm corian. So I'll just line that up on the fence until the blade actually just falls into it without catching any of the sides. And then we can go through. I was fortunate I was given a load of this stuff, but this is this isn't corian, it's Hannix. And all we do, I won't put the dust extractor in, so it's too noisy. Very slowly. And as you can see, we're getting a nice cut straight down the centre. By the way, I use a fine tooth blade on the saw, 14 TPI. The others are a bit too rough and they break out on the bottom. So you'll need to get one of those if you want to split any corian. Right, change positions again. Right, we're back again. Now what I'm going to do is fix a piece of wood first in the chuck. Bring the tailstock up just to make sure that it is dead centre. Tighten up the chuck on the bit of wood. And there we have it. Now I'm going to put the corian on there. Remember, it's got double-sided tape on the back of the corian. So we just peel the paper off of that. I always struggle with this blooming stuff, trying to get hold of a bit of paper. I don't know about you. Sorry about this. There we go. Made life easier, didn't it? So again, we use a tailstock to line it up. Get it dead centre. And there we have it. Small tool rest. I'm just going to clean it up and true it up first, and then we'll move on to the interesting bit, putting the patterns in. It takes a little while doing this, but it's well worth it when you spray them black and then clean it all off after and leave the paint just inside the cutouts. Alright, go and get the tools. There we are. I forgot to mention another tool I use when I can find it. You can see how organised I am, can't you? It's a parting tool. Just to run down the sides at the end and clean them all up. So here we go. Oh. Sorry about that, I just blew a fuse. I had to go back indoors and turn the trip back on. There we go. Anyway, let's start her up and see how we get on. There we go. Now just cleaning the saw marks off from where I put the corian. I'm going to go down the edges with a parting tool. And have a look, see how we're doing. And a little bit more. That was about it. Now we're going to round the edges down. Get a nice smooth. Looks like there's still a few saw marks on there. Have a look. That's all the saw marks gone. Now we'll just clean it up. Speed it up. Yeah. Slowing it down to sand it. You've got to be careful of is them corners of that piece of wood sticking out, because if they hit you, you'll know it. And you'll You'll be calling me all the names under the sun. I would normally have a dust extractor on while I'm doing this, but if I turn it on you won't hear anything apart from the dust extractor. I think they'd bring a silent one out, wouldn't you? I'll put it outside, as I don't doubt some of you are thinking. Nice one, 600 grit. And that should be about it. Just going to use some T-cut to polish it up, so we'll speed it back up again. Make sure your bit of cloth or paper is well away from the edges of that bit of wood. Don't have anything dangling. And there we have a nice bright and shiny pendant. Pick some of the bits off the edge. Right, now what we're going to do is make a scallop round. So we need to move it off centre. This is trial and error at the start until your piece of wood gets marked. An easy way to know where your tool is going to cut is to bring the tailstock up, and that will give you a good indication of where you're going to be cutting. Which will be about there, which I think should be very nice. Oops. Having some fun today, aren't I? Put that on there, out of the way. Now what we're going to do, as you can see, that's only going to touch part of the corian. Couple in, shall we? Just for fun. And there you have it. Now I'm not going to drill the hole until after I've sprayed it and then cleaned all the paint off. So I'm going to shut you down for a sec, set up outside, ready to spray black paint onto it. I'll show you the paint first. There you go, Simon Eyes spray paint acrylic. See you outside. I can't do it outside because it's raining, so we'll have to do it with the door open. And that's all we want. We actually want it just in the grooves. So obviously, as you know, with spraying you can't govern where it's going to go, so we need now to wait for that to dry and then we'll carry on. Right, we're all ready. Paint's dry. So now we're going to sand off the excess paint. I've marked where the original setting was for it to be dead centre. So if you just line that up, clamp it back down. Some of you may ask, why did I bother sanding it in the first place if I'm going to sand it again? Well, the reason I've done that is so that the paint goes on a nice smooth surface and it's easier to remove. That's the only reason. So here we go, start all over again. Slow the lathe down. See how easy that come off the paint? We go through to 600 again. Suppose I could have used a finer grit to take the paint off, but I think it takes longer. 600. And then all will be revealed. There you go. Not bad, eh? Bit of polishing just to make it look good. Clean out the dust from the grooves. I don't use a fresh lot of T-cut for this part of it, because otherwise it gets in them grooves and it can be a bit of a job to get rid of. So I'll just use the old dried up bit. There you go. Now what we need to do is drill the hole for the cord. We'll take the drive centre out. Excuse me. Got a Jacob chuck in the towel stop. And get a drill bit. I'm going to just drill a small 6mm hole. That's plenty big enough for the cord. And now we need to bring the drill bit up. Loosen the chuck, wrong key. You can either put the hole that side or that side. I think I'll opt for that side. Tighten it back up. A little bit further over, I think. Slow the lathe back down. And then we start going. Got wood coming out now, so we know that we've gone far enough in. There you have the hole. And what we're going to do is open that up a little bit and make a little bit of a feature out of it. So it's tool rest back up, carbide tip. Well, you can use spindle gouge if you want to. All we're going to do is just soften the edges of the hole. That's all. There you go. You can make a bigger feature out of that actually if you want to. This is a pointed chisel I'm using. Drop the tool rest. A little bit of 600 in there. Polish. Or T-cut I should say. And there we have it. Job's a good one. Now we've got to take this off of there without damaging it. A spade screwdriver is a turn and away it comes. If you notice, I've rounded the edges of one side of this off, and it's purely so that the screwdriver can go down in there and separate them. A bit of muck on the back to clean off, which won't take a minute. It's actually paint, so we'll have to sand it off. I don't think we was. I don't think we was recording there. There you go. There we have the finished pendant with its cord on, which you can get from eBay, very cheap. I normally make my own, but they're so cheap on eBay it's really not worth the bother. The next video I'm going to do is how to use one of these Axminster eccentric and spiralling chucks to make some different patterns and different effects. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you find it useful and have some fun making some pendants. Ta-ra! There we have some different designs you can do on the same simple chuck. Very inexpensive, but you can create loads of different effects. The only limits you've got really are your imagination. So good luck, hope you enjoy it.